Hello, my name is Mikhail Sergeev, and I'm here to tell my story about how and why did I become a Baha'i. Let me start from the very beginning. I was born in 1960 in Moscow in the Soviet Union to a mixed family in terms of religion. My mother is Jewish. She comes from a Jewish Orthodox family. My father is Russian, and he comes from a Orthodox Christian family. But this mixture of two religions that are at war with each other for thousands of years did not bother me in the slightest, because our family was completely secularized in the Soviet Union. Neither my grandparents nor my parents practiced any religion. I could not say that they were atheists, not militant atheists, probably agnostics, and maybe some of them believed in God, but we never talked about this in the family during our family meetings and celebrations. Now, on top of this, I received an atheist education in the Soviet Union. In fact, the Soviet Union was unique since it was the first and only atheist empire in human history. And out of the three generations that the Soviet Union produced, the generation of my grandparents, my parents, and myself, I belong to the third one. And I think our generation is unique, not only in the Soviet Union, but in the whole human history, because never before a generation of people was produced such that it did not have any religious or spiritual roots. If our grandparents could come back to their Orthodox Christian roots or Orthodox Jewish roots, if our parents who knew their grandparents who were still practicing some religions, so if our parents could come back to some kind of spiritual tradition, our third generation of Soviet people were cut off from any religious tradition whatsoever. So we even studied the history of religions in the universities by taking a course that was called Scientific Atheism. So that was my family and educational background. And when I graduated from the high school and was admitted to the university, I was a staunch proponent of Soviet ideology, which for me meant, number one, our vision of the future was the upcoming universal brotherhood of all people. And this universal brotherhood was based, in my mind, on the so-called moral code of the builders of communism. Now, in this twofold picture, there was no place for God, since we were told that God and religion, instead of helping people grow spiritually, God and religion actually are an obstacle towards spiritual progress. Now, when I was admitted to the university, in a couple of years, I realized that real life is very different from my socialist vision. In fact, I faced a conflict between my ideology and a real life. The real life was much tougher. I realized that the Soviet Union was not a free state. People were trying to report one another, and that was the usual way of making a career within that system. you have to be part of the officialdom. You have to work for the state in some way or another in order to be able to sustain your family, basically. Plus, after 3 years of studying, I realized that I do not want to become a journalist. I was studying to be an international journalist, but journalism was not attractive to me for two reasons. Number one, journalism is about being objective and unbiased and impartial. And the Soviet journalism was not like that. It was very ideological and it was politicized. So I did not want to do anything with this field of work. But also I realized that journalism is about information, and information dies fast. The cycle of the life of information is 1 day, 2 days, 1 week top. And then we move on to another set of informations, to another set of news. And I always wanted to dig deeper, so to say. I always wanted to understand life on a deeper level. So I realized I do not want to be a journalist, but I did not know what I want to be, what I want to study. And I could not transfer my credits from one university to another. After I graduated, I was asked to work for military intelligence, and I rejected that offer because I did not want to have anything to do with Secret Service of any country, and plus I hated the army. As a result, I became unemployed and was unemployed, having graduated from the top Soviet university, International Institute of Moscow Institute of International Relations. So the conflict between my upbringing and the real life influenced the state of my mental health, which was deteriorating because of unemployment, because of lack of money, because of lack of job, because of lack of perspectives, because of the spiritual crisis, etc., etc. By that time, I was already married and had a son. Mental health, my mental health deteriorated so much, and I felt so bad that I thought that a person could not feel that bad and still survive, still be alive. I was pretty sure that I will die very soon. I did not go to a Soviet psychiatrist because psychiatry in the Soviet Union did not have a good reputation. But I was able to found a friend of mine who gave me some psychotherapy. But even with psychotherapy, my health was deteriorating months by months. And, having horrible symptoms like not being able to breathe, having panic attacks, and having problems with the heartbeat, and having problems with many, many other things, I sincerely thought that I'm going to die very soon. During one of those episodes, I decided to address the higher power, in the existence of which I did not believe. So it was not a prayer, or you may say it was some kind of prayer, prayer without prayer. Anyway, I made a promise to the higher power that if I survive this, I will do everything to change my life. I had no idea what will be the direction of the change, how will I do it, but I gave my word and kept suffering for several years. Then, when I was 24 years old, I was able finally to break with the Soviet communist worldview. One of my former teachers at the university helped me. He was a guy who went through Vietnam, who had, as a result, who had serious health problems and became an anti-communist. And we trusted each other, and we talked long hours, many years. And finally, he was able to convince me that my school education, my university education, and the whole of my worldview is based on the wrong assumptions. And when I was 24 years old, my whole world collapsed. Now, that was not a nice experience because, yes, I did have problems on many fronts, but still I retained the meaning of life. And Soviet ideology was a pseudo-religion that would give you not only a set of ideas to believe in, but would give you the meaning of your life. And when you lose the meaning of your life on top of your mental health, that is not a good thing. So my health kept deteriorating, and I entered the real spiritual crisis when I decided to search for some alternative meaning of human life. Since I had no background, no education in religion, I started with something that was available to me. And in the Soviet Union, all of those books were suppressed and were published and distributed in the so-called samizdat, which means self-publishing. I found some people with whom I traded books, exchanged books, and I read and was influenced by occultism, Eastern religions and spiritualities, and of course, Judaism and Christianity. Of course, when I stopped being a Soviet person, I realized that I am a halfer, as people say it, you know, half Jew, half Christian. And those kind of people have a very strange self-consciousness. I feel myself a Jew with the Jews, but not completely, not fully a Jew. I feel myself Russian and Christian in the Christian and Russian community, but not completely Russian and Christian. So I went to Judaism, but I very soon realized that this religion is not for me because it is a national religion. And after my Soviet international upbringing, I could not come back to any kind of national ideology or religion or teaching. It was too narrow for me. However, I found out that I was deeply influenced by Judaism in a way that I liked, and I believed in the idea of one abstract God who is beyond everything. So I realized that it was part of me. And when I came to Christianity, which I liked more because it was a world religion, I very soon realized that Christianity is not for me either, for two reasons. Number one, I could not agree with the Christian doctrine of the Trinity. I could not agree as a Jew that a human being can become God, literally speaking. And plus, I didn't like the rites and the rituals. You know, Orthodox Christianity is based on rituals. And I hate all rituals, including Soviet rituals, military rituals, and all those kind of things. So very soon I realized that I had to look somewhere else, but I had no idea, again, what direction my search may or will take. So the main problem that I had with all those religions and spiritualities is that I intuitively realized that my Soviet experience was a landmark event for my life. And generally speaking, the existence of Soviet Empire for about 75 years was a landmark event for at least the Russian people, because it was an event of such depth, of such cruelty, that it created this border which you cannot pass, and which you cannot pass and come back. The Soviet experience was so profound that it did not allow me to come back to what was before that. And I intuitively realized that the Soviet Union, although being an atheistic empire, is an event of profound religious significance. And in order to understand it, I have to look somewhere else, because there must be some explanation for what happened with my grandparents, parents, and me. If there is no explanation, there is no God. Because all those other traditional religions did not offer any explanations, since they existed for a very long time. So when I was 26, I started to experience miraculous events. Well, strange things started to happen. One evening in 1986, I had a vision of my future life. That was the first and only vision that I had. It was quite real. I still remember it. There was nothing unusual about this evening. I did not have any sense of fear or any sense of anything unusual coming. But what I experienced was as if suddenly inside my consciousness, the light was turned on. And when the light was turned on, I realized that my consciousness is not actually dark, but I can see with my mental eyes that I will be working in a theater and I will be teaching. And that lasted for a couple of seconds, and then the light was turned back off. And I realized that we are living this life with consciousness, our consciousness being in the dark. And I turned to my wife and said, look, I just had a vision that I will be working in the theater and I will teach. And I said, look, I can see myself working in the theater, but what the hell could I be possibly teaching? And with that, we went to bed and forgot about that. But 6 months later, I found myself working in the theater. And it was it was more than special event for me. It was a signature event in my life because by moving from officialdom, I was working for state radio archives. By moving from officialdom, from working for the state to working in the theater that was underground, anti-Soviet, dissident theater, I made my first choice toward the new direction in my life. That was 1987, the beginning of perestroika. And we were making political satire. And I was organizing various tours for our theater across the country and in the Soviet republics. So 4 years that I worked in the theater were changing my character. I realized that actually I could live life as I want to live my life, not as, my state or anyone else wants me to live my life. So the example of our director who did create this theater was tremendous and extraordinary. And in 1989, our director decided to establish some connections with foreign theaters. And he sent me to the United States with a business trip. When one of my friends came to know about this, he asked me to collect some documents from American universities, from as many American universities as I can get, because this guy wanted to get accepted into the Department of Philosophy in one of the American universities. I had no such dreams or plans, and I said, sure, I can visit universities and I will get you all the documents you need. One of the cities where I stayed was Philadelphia, and I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and I went to Temple University. So when I went to Temple, I saw that they have a philosophy department. That was my first target. But they do not have theology department. Instead, they had a religious department. And I never knew that there are religious departments in the universities. So I was interested, maybe, I thought they also teach philosophy. And maybe I can get some documents for my friend. I went there, I met a guy who turned out to be the chair of the Department of Religion, John Raines. And we talked for 2 hours. I explained everything about my friend, and he asked me about myself. I explained everything about myself, my religious search, and I knew many languages. And he was so impressed that he said to me, look, instead of your comrade, why don't you apply to the graduate program at Temple University? And I thought, well, why not? I did not believe that it will be a success anyway. So when I came back, I applied, and in April of 1990, I received a letter that I was accepted. So then I realized that this may be serious, but in the Soviet Union, you cannot simply cross the border. You need visas. And you needed 2 visas, one visa to leave the Soviet Union, another visa to enter the United States. So and there were no student visas in the Soviet Union. So I decided to trick the system. I asked for a private invitation to get the visa which will allow me to leave the Soviet Union as a tourist. And then I went to American Embassy and gave all the papers and said that I'm accepted into graduate studies so that they would give me American visa as a student. It was very difficult at that time to receive this visa, but I had no problems. And when we were crossing the border, we were crossing the border illegally. We left the USSR as tourists, but we entered the United States as students. And as I was told later, it was illegal, but no one stopped us. Also, I had to buy tickets. And in the Soviet Union, you cannot buy one-way ticket, only a round trip, because you have to come back. And one ticket would cost a fortune. So I had to sell some of my possessions at home and basically zeroed all my savings to buy 3 tickets. Moscow, New York, Moscow to me, my wife, and my son. And in August of 1990, our director sent me back to the United States with another business trip. And I came to Temple. I greeted John Raines. And I told him that here I am. I have everything set up. Here are the passports. Here are the visas. Here is the invitation. I'm ready to come and start this program. And then I see the face of Raines and I realize that something is very, very wrong. Well, at that time, I did not know how American universities are working, and being accepted is not the most important thing. The most important thing is to get financial aid. And I didn't have any money. obviously. John Raines understood that. But it turns out that the temple did not have financial aid either, and nor did the department. And John Raines looked at me, and I looked at him, and I saw that at that moment, my whole destiny is being decided, but I had no idea why and what is happening. John Raines looked at me and realized that I had no idea what is happening, and if he tells me that I need money, he will ruin me, both financially and psychologically. And he could not do it. He called the service, a temple that deals with foreign students, asked how much money does he need in order for me to cross the border, $7,000 a year. And he gave me that money from the department. I don't know from what source, but he gave me this pink form in which it was said that I have enough money to cross the border. So I did not realize how serious that was until I studied in the United States for several years. But you know, another miraculous story was waiting for us at the American border. So when we arrived in the United States on December 26th of 1990, the customer at the American border asked us for the pink form. And I did not have it. I do not know what happened with it. Maybe American embassy took it, but I did not have it. And I said that unfortunately, I do not have the pink form. And the customer replies, well, without the pink form, I cannot let you cross the border. And at that moment, I thought I'm having a stroke. And the customer is opening my wife's passport. And my wife was born on December 25th. In Russia, Jesus's birthday is celebrated 12 days later because of the difference in calendar. And we did not know that my wife is, how do you call it, Christmas baby. So the customer opens her passport, and that was December 26th of 1990, and he says, oh, Christmas baby, welcome to America. And he gives us all the necessary stamps and visas, and he let us go, basically. I'm barely moving, and I have $160 in my pocket. That's all we had. That's how we started our life in the United States. So when I found myself in the United States, I was able to look at the literature that was not available to me in the Soviet Union. And since I was studying religion, and I suddenly realized that this is exactly what I should have been studying. I like studying the history of religion. So I started to look for religious literature about various religious movements that is abundant in the United States. And at some point around 1993, I discovered for the first time for myself Baha'i Faith. I called local Baha'is. They did not return my call. And I liked it because it was very different from Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses and other Protestants who may be quite militant. Anyway, I asked them to send me some information, booklets, etc. And I received by mail a booklet about Baha'i Faith. I remember it's just a small thing. And on the first page, it was an image of the Holy Spirit, it was said, and then various lines that would lead to different prophets. And at that moment, when I first looked at this booklet, I intuitively and immediately realized that this is what I was looking for. I have not read any scriptures. I have not talked to anyone. I have not met any Baha'i. Actually, I've met one Baha'i, Robert Stockman, at the conference. But again, I had no information about this religion altogether. But I remember this overwhelming feeling of happiness and bliss. After that, I was trying to analyze this incident, and I think that intuitively I understood that this religion would help me make sense of my Soviet years and of my American experience, and it will be able to give me back the meaning of my life. Anyway, the bliss was coming from the fact that I realized that Baha'i Faith was able to answer my questions about the Soviet Union. And if this religion exists, then God exists. And if God exists, that is a whole new ball game. So after that, I came from the stage of hell, obviously symbolic hell, when I was an atheist, did not believe in life after death, and had no hope for anything. So from that stage to the stage of purgatory, symbolic purgatory, because for the first time in many, many decades, I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. But the tunnel was pretty huge because I started experiencing intellectual doubts. And the more I was reading, the more doubts I had because of my Soviet upbringing and because of my previous education. So I had to re-educate myself from scratch. And to do that, I had to sacrifice many things, salary, career, and all those kind of things. Thank God my wife is an accountant, and we could survive with me being an adjunct professor. So for the next 20 years, I was re-educating myself according to my personal educational program. I created 20 different courses and taught them. And finally, when I got 55 years old, I was able to reach the end of the tunnel. I published my book, which is called Theory of Religious Cycles, Tradition, Modern Time, and the Baha'i Faith, something like that. I may be wrong about the exact title. And after publishing this book, and after exhausting all my intellectual doubts, I was able finally to become a member of the Baha'i community. So that's basically my story. What is the moral of the story? For me, it is just simple. I simply kept my word. I gave my word when I was 20. I kept my word for the next 35 years. And I was helped. And I'm grateful for that. That's it.